This is a read aloud for Pyramus and Thisbe, The Metamorphosis of Ovid, books 1 through 7. Ovid, translated by Henry T. Riley.
Pyramus and Thisbe, the one the most beauteous of youths, the other preferred before all the damsels that the East contained, lived in adjoining houses, where Semiramis is said to have surrounded her lofty city with walls of brick. The nearness caused their first acquaintance, and their first advances in love. With time their affection increased. They would have united themselves, too, by the tie of marriage, but their fathers forbade it. A thing which they could not forbid, they were both inflamed, with minds equally captivated. There is no one acquainted with it, by nods and signs, they hold converse. And the more the fire is smothered, the more, when so smothered, does it burn. The party wall, common to the two houses, was cleft by a small chink, which it had got formerly, when it was built. This defect, remarked by no one for so many ages, you lovers, what does not love perceive, first found one, and you made it a passage for your voices, and the accents of love used to pass through it in safety, with the gentlest murmur. Oftentimes, after they had taken their stations, Thisbe on one side, and Pyramus on the other, and the breath of their mouths had been mutually caught by turns, they used to say, Envious wall, why dost thou stand in the way of lovers? What great matter were it, for thee to suffer us to be joined with our entire bodies? Or if that is too much, that, at least, thou shouldst open, for the exchange of kisses. Nor are we ungrateful, we confess that we are indebted to thee, that a passage has been given for our words to our loving ears. Having said this much, in vain, on their respective sides, about night they said, Farewell, and gave those kisses each on their own side, which did not reach the other side. The following morning had removed the fires of the night, and the sun, with its rays, had dried the grass wet with rime, when they met together at the wonted spot. Then, first complaining much in low murmurs, they determined, in the silent night, to try to deceive their keepers, and to steal out of doors, and when they have left the house, to quit the buildings of the city as well, but that they may not have to wander, roaming in the open fields, to meet at the tomb of Ninus, and to conceal themselves beneath the shade of a tree. There was there a lofty mulberry tree, very full of snow-white fruit, quite close to a cold spring. The arrangement suits them, and the light, seeming to depart but slowly, is buried in the waters, and from the same waters the night arises. The clever Thisbe, turning the hinge, gets out in the dark, and deceives her attendants, and, having covered her face, arrives at the tomb, and sits down under the tree agreed upon. Love made her bold. Lo! A lioness approaches, having her foaming jaws besmeared with the recent slaughter of oxen, about to quench her thirst with the water of the neighboring spring. The Babylonian Thisbe sees her at a distance, by the rays of the moon, and with a trembling foot she flies to a dark cave, and, while she flies, her veil falling from her back, she leaves it behind. When the savage lioness has quenched her thirst with plenteous water, as she is returning into the woods, she tears the thin covering, found by chance without Thisbe herself, with her blood-stained mouth. Pyramus, going out later than Thisbe, saw the evident footmarks of a wild beast, in the deep dust, and grew pale all over his face. But, as soon as he found her veil, as well, dyed with blood, he said, One night will be the ruin of two lovers, of whom she was the most deserving of a long life. My soul is guilty, 'tis I that have destroyed thee, much to be lamented, who bade thee to come by night to places full of terror, and came not hither first. Oh, whatever lions are lurking beneath this rock, tear my body in pieces, and devour my accursed entrails with ruthless jaws. But it is the part of a coward to wish for death. He takes up the veil of Thisbe, and he takes it with himself to the shade of the tree agreed on, and, after he has bestowed tears on the well-known garment, he gives kisses to the same, and he says, Receive, now, a draught of my blood as well, and then plunges the sword, with which he is girt, into his bowels, and without delay, as he is dying, he draws it out of the warm wound. As he falls on his back upon the ground, the blood spurts forth on high, not otherwise than as when a pipe is burst on the lead decaying, and shoots out afar the liquid water from the hissing flaw, and cleaves the air with its jet. The fruit of the tree, by the sprinkling of the blood, are changed to a dark tint, and the root, soaked with the gore, tints the hanging mulberries with a purple hue. Behold! Not yet having banished her fear, Thisbe returns, that she may not disappoint her lover, and seeks for the youth both with her eyes and her affection, and longs to tell him how great dangers she has escaped. And when she observes the spot, and the altered appearance of the tree, she doubts if it is the same, so uncertain does the color of the fruit make her. While she is in doubt, she sees palpitating limbs throbbing upon the bloody ground, she draws back her foot, and having her face paler than boxwood, she shudders like the sea, which trembles when its surface is schemed by a gentle breeze. But, after pausing a time, she had recognized her own lover, she smote her arms, undeserving of such usage, and tearing her hair, and embracing the much-loved body, she filled the gashes with her tears, and mingled her tokens of sorrow with his blood, and imprinting kisses on his cold features, she exclaimed, Pyramus, what disaster has taken thee away from me? Pyramus, answer me, 'tis thy own Thisbe, dearest, that calls thee, hear me, and raise thy prostrate features. At the name of Thisbe, Pyramus raised his eyes, now heavy with death, and, after he had seen her, he closed them again. After she had perceived her own garment, and beheld, too, the ivory sheath without its sword, she said, 'tis thy own hand, and love, that has destroyed thee, ill-fated youth. I, too, have a hand bold enough for this one purpose, I have love as well, this shall give me strength for the wound. I will follow thee in thy death, and I shall be called the most unhappy cause and companion of thy fate, and thou who, alas, couldst be torn from me by death alone, shalt not be able, even by death, to be torn from me. And you, O most wretched parents of mine and his, be but prevailed upon, in this one thing, by the entreaties of us both, that you will not deny those whom their constant love and whom their last moments have joined, to be buried in the same tomb. But thou, O tree, which now with thy boughs dost overshadow the luckless body of but one, art fated soon to cover those of two. Retain a token of this our fate, and ever bear fruit black and suited for mourning, as a memorial of the blood of us two. Thus she said, and having fixed the point under the lower part of her breast, she fell upon the sword, which still was reeking with his blood. Her prayers, however, moved the gods, and moved their parents. For the color of the fruit, when it has fully ripened, is black, and what was left of them, from the funeral pile, reposed in the same urn. Semiramis, the wife of Ninus, she reigned in his place after his death. Rhyme, frost. Ninus, an ancient Assyrian king who died in battle. Babylonian, sinful. Prostrate, lying face down.